preparing to live stream. I think we're live on Facebook. So says Zoom.
Oh, we are live on Facebook. Oh my goodness. My name is Dan Tyre, co-author of the Inboard Organization. Who's the guy who looks like Ernest Hemingway?
That's me, Todd Hockenberry, also the co-author of Inbound Organization. Thanks for that, Dan. Good to see you as always. Super excited for our guest today. One of the absolute smartest people on the planet is here with us today, especially when it comes to content. I would hold this gentleman up against anybody when it comes to content. Our friend Justin Champion. Say hi, Justin.
Hey, everyone.
Where are you located these days, Justin? You still in North Carolina?
I am. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, and fall has been in full swing for the past three weeks. Perfect time of year here.
So you're even smarter than I thought. That is a fantastic place to live in a great part of the country.
Yeah. Well, Justin, remember, Justin's an Airstream guy, right? The reason why we're so excited, and the reason you have to ask that question, he drives around in an Airstream, right? Climbing mountains and writing books and doing all this interesting stuff, building community for HubSpot. Right, which is amazing, right? So you never know, right? I did a show with Justin in Phoenix. I thought he was going to pull his Airstream right onto my back porch, right? Amazing. He goes all over the United States and all over the world. He's a world leader. Justin always downplays his props, right? But I don't do that because he's a good friend. We work together every single week. He's super smart. Anything about content. The reason you should stick around for the next 45 minutes is because super impactful on content and how it plays into the inbound organization. And this is going to be epic.
Excellent. Are you still traveling around, Justin? I think you settled down. You did the digital nomad thing for a couple of years, right?
So the goal was still to keep doing a bit more of at a part-time level. We're going out, like for instance, when I saw Dan, that was when I already lived in Asheville. I think that the pandemic made traveling more of a difficulty. If you remember, we've been trying to do several events around the country for the past few years, but we're just waiting to a time when we know that we can go back to certain in-person events. They will happen. They might be at a hybrid level. So the goal is definitely to get back on the road. Now having almost a 2-year-old, we're just going to bring her with us and show her the world.
Train her up early, get her used to traveling. I love it.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, when you come to Florida, you let me know. Well, I'd love to do another event with you.
For sure.
All right. Well, we're a couple minutes past the hour. We can start. Dan, you are the king of the intro, so we're going to give you the honor today of introducing Justin formally to our audience.
All right. So Justin Champion and I have known for each other for about 6 or 7 years, right? He started as a HubSpot professor, right? And what was your subject matter like when you were a professor? Was it content?
Yeah, and actually, before I was a professor, I was on the services team. I have a background of SEO and content marketing from about 2008 is when I started my career. And when I started at HubSpot, I was on the services team. My goal was to find I didn't even care where I came in when I came to HubSpot. I was like, I'm going to go find the biggest opportunity, the biggest challenge. Had 200 customers in my funnel, saw that as an opportunity of figuring out what is the biggest challenge or opportunity that customers are experiencing. Customers just don't understand how to do content marketing very well years ago. And it's still similar today where people are blogging, they're creating content officers, doing everything in silos. So before I was a professor, I came up with a process for the services team on how to service customers better, help them be better content marketers so that they would get more value out of HubSpot. And then when I joined the academy team, it was to be the content marketing professor, and the rest is history with creating that certification and really doubling down on that subject matter expertise.
All right, don't underplay that. Number one, how many professors were there when you were there? Like 3, right? You were one of the first.
Just Kyle. It was there was Kyle and there was Lindsay. Like the content marketing course was the 3rd course that came out on Academy. So
one of the first Academy guys. And then it turns out his structured way of looking at content marketing became very valuable. So what did he do? He started speaking on it. Right. And I've done a couple of shows with Justin, a couple of workshops with Justin, and they're magical. Right? People who are dedicated their life to content, creating content, love to listen to him because he gives a structured academic approach that's still relevant in the real world of how to do it, how to measure it, how to get more headcount, and how to make sure you're leaning into the right stuff. Then he decides to write a book, right? And we're both on Wiley, right? So our books launched on the same day. And so we have all these grand plans of going and then the global pandemic hits. right? And now at HubSpot, you're still a HubSpot employee, as I am, right? It turns out that the inbound motion, both the inbound organization, inbound content, is more relevant than it's ever been before. Oh my goodness, in a global pandemic, you've got to lean into this content. So it's hugely important, hugely impactful. And we're really excited to share with our listeners a little bit about that today.
All right, well, let's just jump in, Justin. Our topic today is talking about trends in content marketing. So obviously the biggest disruption of is COVID, right? It's changed a lot of things. So let's talk about what do you think's changed in the last 18 months in terms of content marketing?
I think one of the biggest things is just the amount of people that are trying to create a digital presence now. The funny thing about content marketing, and even like with inbound content being published back in, what was it, 2018? You think a marketing book might have like a shelf life of a few years, but that book is still, as like Dan said, as relevant as ever. Like some of the principles don't change. What is changing is there are a lot of people that are trying to ramp up their businesses online. I think through the period, the two biggest things I noticed is that we got accelerated by 10 years through the pandemic. Things were starting to shift online, but now when people were forced to be online, companies that already had their businesses set up are doing really well. I think HubSpot is a case of that, right? Like HubSpot has free products that you're able to try. You're able to have starter products. You can go to pro or enterprise. You can do the whole gambit. And by thinking about the process from that side, businesses have accelerated much faster because they set things up. So now you have other businesses that are trying to come online and figure out where do they even start. I just had a call with a HubSpot customer who's on Starter out in Hawaii, and he has a startup, and he read the book, he went through the content marketing course, and it was one of the best calls I've had this year because he put in the effort and really showed exactly what it is that he wants to develop, and meaning that he's outlining the content that he wants to create. And I think that is the biggest thing through this whole experience, is that you are going to have things that are going to happen. You have timely things, like people now are looking for convenience and figuring out ways that you can shift, and your content should reflect that. But what's really important is thinking of the long-term game of where your business is going, thinking about your plan like a puzzle, and chipping away at it one piece at a time. And I think a guy who just went through some of the content I've been creating and hearing what he's working on makes it all worthwhile.
So let's take that example of somebody that's got a startup, and if I'm assuming they didn't have a whole lot of content, if any, just when they start.
Don't even have a website.
Okay, so you're starting from scratch. This is a good example. So what would it look like for somebody to start from scratch, right? That's pretty intimidating. It's also, let's talk about like time to value, where they can start actually seeing value from their content and maybe even start to build momentum. What we've seen certainly is there's been a flood of content, like you said. Everybody realized a year and a half ago that all of a sudden there's no trade shows, we can't go face to face. How do we reach people? How do we build connections to our audience? So belatedly, unfortunately, for a lot of people, they decided that they needed to invest in their digital presence. So for this example, though, how would you start, and what kind of path would you recommend they get on? And again, how long do you think that process would take?
It's a good question. I think there is a difference between, it's not a one size fits all. I think that's the most important thing. That's the hardest thing with a subject like content marketing, because it's so broad that it's very hard to be prescriptive, because not every business is the same. And that's something most customers or people talk to me about when I'm, consulting with them, is they'll say, my business is different. So I hear it a lot. And so if you are a business that is local and you're trying to adhere to a local audience, it's going to be much different from what you might do if you're trying to reach either a national or global audience. So that's the first thing. But if we're just being fair and going on, let's assume that you have a national or global audience and you're creating some sort of product or service where it's not for a specific geographical location. I think the first thing is trying to understand the demand for what you actually, for the products or services that you have. Like, because if it's important to understand the search habits of what people are searching for, like that's a great barometer for understanding the types of content you should be creating. So for this a HubSpot customer that I was talking to the other day, he went through all the content and he came to this call prepared with exactly what he needed to know or what I needed to know to have a meaningful conversation. So what he did was he looked at all the different keywords that people were searching. He was searching broad. They were like 2 to 3 letter words, 2 to 3 words like more broad keywords and finding out the monthly search volume with them. And I think that's the first thing, is trying to understand, is there demand, or finding the demand for what your products and services are. And then if you're a new business, if you're ultimately trying to show up on Google, you need to understand the competition, what content exists. But then when you're looking at the monthly search volume, just as important as looking at the monthly search volume is looking at the domain authority needed to be able to rank for those specific keywords. And I think I might be getting into the weeds here, but you want to make sure the demand is there, and you want to make sure that the demand is something that you have an opportunity of ranking for. So just as kind of a pro tip for everybody, if you're in the middle of trying to figure this out right now, find keywords that are obviously over maybe 1,000 monthly searches, if that can be the goal. The other thing is to try and find the domain authority of those keywords in between, or the authority needed to rank for the, or sorry, it's not domain authority, it's the keyword difficulty. Domain authority is what you need to get there. You want to have the keyword difficulty with those keywords be between 20 to 40. If you're a new business, you don't want to go too high over that. That's the biggest mistake most companies make, is that they try and go for the monthly search volume without looking at the keyword difficulty, and they don't have the adequate domain authority to rank for those terms. The inbound content book I created is really kind of a introduction to what this is, but I created a website that has a free workshop on it called inboundstrategycamp.com. And that was actually the workshop that I trialed for years. And when I even met Dan, that explains how to start this process from scratch. So but that's like the biggest thing right there, is those two things, focusing on making sure you're finding the demand and the content you're creating is actually going to make a splash.
So let's go in the weeds a little bit. One of the challenges that we see with this scenario, where somebody's either a startup or essentially maybe a content startup, where they have a business but they don't really have any authority or presence online. Mm-hmm. The difficulty is, right, there's kind of content overload in a lot of areas. There's just tons of stuff out there. And the other thing is that the search results have changed a lot over the years, where when you look at a lot of results, you see Google wants to own the whole thing, right? They ultimately don't want you to click to your website. They want you to stay on that search page. That's why you see all these featured snippets. You see these lots of ads, right? I mean, ultimately they want you to click something, but they're making it even tougher to get the organic results, because they end up being pushed down, right? So, I mean, are there other things you can do to accelerate content in the process of getting that ranking, where you actually would show up at the top of a search, or is there other things you'd recommend to do on top of just the SEO piece?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're creating content that is going to be helpful for the reader first. I think that's the most important thing. A lot of people will create content going into it from an SEO perspective, and sometimes it might be optimized well, but it might not provide as much value as if somebody was actually reading through the content. So nowadays I see content that can be I read it and I see the way it's structured. I'm like, this person probably created this in a day, and they did it because they're trying to get a ranking, versus the people who put in the effort of trying to think of the long game of making this content meaningful for the reader. Now, I think from an SEO perspective, the best chance that you have is to not just think about the number one search result. Like you just said, you have the featured snippet, which is Google trying to answer your question without you even to click through to a page. You have image search results, you have video search results. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times these are even showing up before the number one search result. So a lot of times you'll have the ads, you'll have the video and image search results, and you'll have the featured snippet. And then you have to scroll down to find the number one listing. So what I did specifically, and like I mentioned in Inbound Strategy Camp, like you want to find out the monthly search volume and keyword difficulty of the content you're creating. And once you find a keyword that you want to rank for, really double down on not only creating value for the human, but creating the content in a way that's going to be really hard for somebody else to steal it from you. And one way to think about this is to structure your content where you are using headings, like you're using your H2 tags really strategically. You are explaining what the page is about. You are having a table of contents that is linking to those headings throughout the page. That's going to optimize it for the featured snippet. The other thing you can do is the elements that are on the page, like having photos in it. Make sure that you are optimizing those accordingly. The big one though, my biggest suggestion is to become a video marketer. You want to really find a way of doubling down on creating video content, because YouTube is owned by Google and they're the second largest search engine. So they're actually prioritizing video content above even their search results. So let's just say hypothetically, you have a blog post, you have the keyword you're going after, you have it structured well, and you have a video that's embedded on it that's maybe 2 to 3 minutes long. Not only from an SEO perspective is it going to help keep the time on page, people on the page longer, which is going to send a signal back to Google that, hey, this, content, people are really consuming it. It's going to help from that side. But the other thing is, if it's a YouTube video that you're embedding, then chances are you can have the same video show up in the video search results above that #1 listing. So what I try to communicate now is using your resources strategically so that you're claiming as much real estate on the search engine result page as possible. It's not just about the #1 listing. It's about getting the #1 listing. It's about getting featured in the image search results, the video search results, and the featured snippet. You do that, and it's going to be really hard to overthrow.
A couple of things. I want to talk about technical aspect of SEO here as well, but I also want to touch base on the idea that a lot of the content people produce is on other platforms that are kind of closed, right? For example, like LinkedIn, for example. If you go to LinkedIn and post a blog post and put a link to try to get people to go back to your website, LinkedIn's deprecating that. They're not giving you as much exposure for that, versus if you would actually post that on LinkedIn natively, right, on their platform, right? The platforms are kind of walling off a little bit to try to keep you in their world and not send you back to off of their platform, essentially. So the two questions are, there's the kind of other platform, how to use content there, and also kind of technical SEO. So you mentioned things like an H2 tag. Right? It's a very technical thing. So let's take that one. Let's take that first. The technical stuff, how important is all of those, the little kind of behind the scenes thing, not the black hat stuff, but actually just doing it best practices? Is that still critical skills to do with content? You've got to kind of set it up, the best practices from SEO standpoint. Is it still matter, or is it really just about what the user sees?
It's a great question. I mean, like, if you're getting a page that's going to, generally Google, it's their job to find you the most relevant content possible. So if there's a page that might not be structured as well, but man, is it getting a ton of traffic, wherever that traffic is coming from, Google's going to want to find it. But that's why it's important, especially for anybody, the best chance that you have is getting really good at creating structure, right? Like, I think we all went through the process of writing a book. You don't just sit down and write it. You have to think about the organization of what that book looks like. You have to think about the different chapters. You have to think about the content you're going to create. Similar thing where if you work within templates, right? Like, if every time you're writing a blog post, you know that, hey, I'm going to be using headers to break into new sections. I'm going to be using bullet pointed lists within this section. And then if I'm going to be embedding a video, you can move much quicker because you're not reinventing the wheel. The first time you do anything, it's the hardest. Moving forward, once you do something, use it as an opportunity to create a template, a process, so that you can move faster, create something very valuable. I don't claim to be the best content creator, like, by far. There's a lot of people that are really great content creators, but one thing that I pride myself on is creating processes to reduce friction so I can move quicker and I can produce things that might provide more value at a much faster rate, because I would like to work within processes or templates. So I think it's very important that you are optimizing elements of a page, especially headers, because headers are going to be the opportunity of getting secondary SEO benefits of having, a lot of times you'll see a page that's trying to rank for whatever the title tag is, but then those headers that are used throughout the page, not only breaking up the content, there are also secondary keywords that page is ranking for, which is so important because nowadays the average first page search result will rank well for about 1,000 keywords. And that's because there's semantic relationships to those keywords. If a page is doing really well, those headers are going to start ranking for those keywords, which is why you want to make sure you're making it easy for Google to find your content, not difficult.
Gotcha. So the technical side of SEO is still critical because you want both, right? You want great content that drives engagement, because Google does look at things like the amount of visits, time on page, bounce rate. They're looking at all those things and saying, this is good content. People are engaging with this. So therefore it's going to move you up in authority and relevance in the ranking. So And I totally agree with you. You've got to have both, right? You've got to have engaging content. You can't write garbage and expect it to rank because nobody's going to engage with it. But you still have to do the technical side, right? Which is, I love the idea of you talking about processes and structures. One of the things we've done with our clients over the years is look at their entire URL structure across the whole site and build a logical case of how you organize the pages so that you can build kind of these relationships and hierarchies so that Google knows that we are talking about these topics and then these subtopics, and they all kind of ladder up to the kind of the core things you're going after. So I agree with you. Technical SEO is still really, really critical today. And in many ways, it's even more critical because there's so much more content out there.
And really quick, if I can just say on that,
yeah, please.
It's not even about creating garbage content. Like if you're just creating noise, those people who are creating those pieces of content that are coming out really quickly, you're not setting yourself up for long-term success. A lot of people are looking for the quick wins, and there are things that you could be doing like listicles where it's like the 50 best tools that you should be thinking about for X. Like posts like that do really well, but the shelf life on them is not quite as long as if you're thinking about creating value where somebody's actually going to come back to this page and why are they here and what are they getting, what's the value they're getting out of it. But that's the only thing I wanted to say is that the danger is of people who are just moving too quickly by creating noise, by not adding something new to what other people are already saying.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's a great way to put it, noise. Anybody can throw in stuff out there, but if it's not relevant, if it's not timely, and if it's not well done, right? You can't just put something up and hope people show up, right? I run into that as in my consulting business where people ask, hey, we want to grow traffic. We need more leads from our website. You know, everybody wants the same thing, right? But it's hard. It's not easy. You don't sit down and write 2 blog posts or 3 blog posts and all of a sudden you're going to get massive amounts of traffic. You've got to be committed to doing all the things right. Like you said, you got to be committed with a process, long-term, build a structure, build the foundation, and then build on top of it, optimize things correctly. And it's not easy and it's not simple, but when you do it, I talk about this. I'm writing an article right now about how content can contribute to EBITDA, which is essentially the bottom line earnings of a company. And we've been able to connect the actual value of companies and the revenue profit of companies to their website and content. And if you do it right, it becomes an asset for your company long-term. So that's a whole nother conversation. But so let's go to the second question. We're still actually on our first question on our list though, Justin. You see how this works.
We could do a whole session on this, right? We could do a whole session on that first question, but let's continue.
So I talked about other platforms like LinkedIn and putting your content there. What again, let's go back to our example of somebody that's relatively new, startup, or at least doesn't have a lot of content authority right now. Well, how would those other platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, how do they feed into a content strategy?
Yeah, and let's also assume that this person doesn't have much bandwidth. It's either that they don't have much bandwidth or they don't have too much of a team. I've learned to be a very thrifty marketer over the years, and you have to make sure that everything that you're doing is intentional. Right. Whether it's that you know that you have a process or you're doing experiments to either improve the process or add new opportunities to it. So I think with channels, the way that you have to think about it is you have to think about what are the perceived value that you're getting out of it. Is it to promote it? I mean, are you just working to give snippets of content to promote it to an audience on this channel? I think you need to understand which channels you should even really be on from like a social perspective. Like, is your audience on Twitter? Is your audience on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram? Don't try to be on every channel. Try to be on the channels that make the most sense for your business. I will say though, I learned early in my career because SEO is my background. Online reputation management is important. So even if you're not engaging on a channel, claim all of your profiles, brand them out, and have one post that links everybody to your primary channel where you're engaging. That way, when people are searching for you, like you'll be able to claim your own branded search results. So that's just a pro tip there. So find the social channels that make the most sense for you, engage there. Fewer is probably going to be better. And then do experiments. Like if you want to experiment on LinkedIn, have it be part of a campaign, see how it performs, use data to be able to explain what you should or should not be doing in the future. The second thing is there are certain channels that have very strong benefits from just a promotion perspective. Like I said, I have learned to lean into video in the past several years, mainly because of Google's relationship with YouTube, its impact on search results, its impact on the experience of somebody consuming your content. So now the reason why I try and have a video on every single page that I'm focusing on creating is because the majority of my pages get, I would say, 5 to 8 minutes average time on page. That's a long time for somebody to stay on a page, and that's going to be helpful from an SEO perspective. But then I'm also knowing that that distribution channel of YouTube is going to be ranking near the number one, or ranking near the top of the first page of search results, and I want to show up there. So I generally like to try and find channels where the benefit is that you can actually show up in search results, which is why Medium is another great place. If you're publishing a blog post, maybe you can restructure it and publish it on Medium and be able to have that rank on search results. So the way to think of distribution channels is it just a promotion channel where you have an audience, or does that distribution channel have the opportunity of getting you more visibility by claiming more search engine results? So I tend to go the search engine result perspective because it has longer term results than social media, but social media still has a very strong purpose as well, just from a promotion perspective.
Yeah, you hit one of my hot buttons there, where you talk about where the audience actually is, where they're consuming content, right? I deal with a lot of executives at companies, and they'll say, oh, we need to be on Twitter, we need to be on all the social media, we need to be everywhere, right? And I say, well, you're an executive at a company. Where do you go for information? Where do you consume it? Would your peers consume information in this way, in this place, right? I also deal with a lot of people that are technical, right? So you're talking about engineers or developers or people that are technical, and again, they go to different places and to consume content. So let's, and I think there's a big trend in here. So we'll go back to the kind of original topic, which was trends in content marketing. How do you see kind of referral marketing and other people, third parties, impacting your ability to move your content to your audience that you're trying to reach?
It's another great question. And actually, it's the same answer as the one I just gave, where it's like, what are the benefits that you're getting from it? Because there's two angles, especially with referral traffic. And this helps a lot with getting content to rank, because you might find the keyword difficulty is in the sweet spot. Let's say you found a keyword difficulty of 10 and you're like, oh, okay, this keyword is really going to provide value if I can build up my domain authority. The way that you build domain authority is through referral traffic and inbound links. So on one side, referral traffic can be very helpful from if you're on a site that gets a good flow of traffic coming through it, because they are going to come to your site. I have leaned into inbound links, like the referral traffic. I might not necessarily look at the referral traffic as much as I look at how much is that inbound link passing through value to increase my domain authority, especially if it's pointing to a specific page, where if I publish a blog post and I want to get it ranking, I might try and go and guest blog on 10 different platforms that have higher domain authority. Generally, when I guest blog, I try to look for platforms that are above 40 domain authority, because that's really going to help pass enough value through to your website. And yes, the referral traffic will be there, and that's going to be helpful. But also the big benefit is getting the SEO juice, the value, to help increase that page's authority that you published, to help it get ranking on the first page. So similar to the last question that I answered, referral traffic is definitely helpful. You want to make sure that you understand the content that you're publishing somewhere. But even if the content and referral traffic is not strong, make sure that you are putting yourself out there for creating content on sites that have domain authority, that will be able to pass through enough value to the content you're creating, so you're getting that secondary SEO benefit. It's not even secondary, it's a primary SEO benefit to helping your content rank. So referral traffic is important, but keep in mind the value. Again, try to go for websites over 40 domain authority when you are trying to pass referral traffic to your site, because that referral traffic, that link that the traffic is coming through, Google's also going to give you value for SEO.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on to another question. So again, we've been talking about kind of more of the technical aspects of content and what you do with it and where you put it. Let's talk a little bit about where the ideas for it come from, the actual stuff, right? The actual content of the content. I think I should trademark that, Dan. Content of the content. I don't know. Maybe that's not very good. But anyway, so where does the best content come from these days, right? There's options, right? Internally, You could bring somebody in from the outside to create content for you. You could collaborate with people. There's user-generated content. We've seen that. And our buddy Dan just did a book with the folks at BombBomb, Ethan Butte, that actually hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, where it was a collaborative effort. There was, I think, 10 or 12 people collaborated, each had a chapter, right? They brought in 12 experts, created a book around it, and it turned it into a very, very popular book, very good book too. Again, human-centered communications, there it is. So where does the best content come from these days, Justin?
Yeah, I think the one thing that you mentioned, it really depends on the business of where, like what sort of how they're set up and maybe they're finding value in it. I think the one trend that I've seen that people should really try and lean into is collaborating and building relationships. I think you all would be great at this, right? Like whether you're coming out with a book, whether you are trying to create the next best piece of content, really the best content marketers are ones that are really good relationship managers. They're finding ways of being able to work with others and create symbiotic value. A lot of times you get a lot of half-assed people nowadays where they're like, hey, I have this piece of content, and they are trying to include them in it, but they're not thinking about this person and the real value, right? Like it's the quick win of like, let's see if we could get a quote from this person, have them promote it, versus one thing that I think could be really helpful is finding ways of being able to create value where other businesses are also getting value out of it. Maybe that means that you are going to do a live event and you're going to bring a panel of people from different companies, and then there's going to be some form of content that's created where everybody has a say and they're working on building it together. The reason why I said it's a little half-assed to kind of create something and then go ask people to create it is if you include people a part of the collaboration or a part of the content creation process and you're collaborating with them, they're going to be more invested in it. They're going to be more excited about it. They're going to be more willing to promote it. And I think if you're collaborating with people, you can have it be where everybody has maybe a piece of that puzzle, and it can provide more benefit, not only for that project, but you can possibly work this person again in the future. They can connect you with somebody else. So I think anytime that you're able to collaborate with people, the better, especially if you find out what their goals are. And if you're hosting the content and people are linking to it, you have to find a way of making sure they're getting value back and not just all what's in it for me. It's what's in it for us.
So what we're doing today right here is a good example, right? There's benefits to both of us for doing this. And I see this a lot with podcasters. One of my favorite podcasting strategies is to build a podcast around my ideal buyer and then interview my ideal buyer on the podcast and use it as a way to kind of build relationships by interviewing them and create shared value together, right? It's a non-salesy way to kind of build a relationship with somebody. I am a big fan of this, right? Whether it's asking people for guest posts, again, podcast is a good one. Live events like this, there's certainly panels. There's lots of ways to do it, right? My advice to clients is always, who's selling to your audience that isn't your competitor, but is selling to the same audience with similar goals in mind, right? So therefore, it's complementary. You complement each other, so you're kind of building each other up as you create this content. So love it. So one of the big things I get asked about all the time is agencies, right? And content writers. Can we outsource this? Can I hire a writer or a contractor, or I want to hire an agency and just throw it over the wall and turnkey it to them? So give us your advice on how companies and leaders should think about and structure their relationship with the agencies to get the best quality content.
Yeah, before I was at HubSpot, I was an agency person. I started off in an SEO and PPC agency, pay-per-click advertising agency. Then I went to a digital agency. Then I went to a PR firm. So I'm very well versed in understanding the value that you can get out of agencies. And honestly, the thing you have to keep in mind with agencies is you need to find one that makes the most sense for your business. You don't want to just go to any agency, because most agencies will say, yeah, we can do the work, and they'll find a way of doing it, but they might not necessarily be well versed in it. So I think if you can find an agency that's maybe skilled in your vertical, that's one thing, is finding an agency that is actually able to communicate. They understand your buyer versus just an agency who says that they can do everything, because that's going to be a dangerous situation. I think trying to look at case studies and social proof of that agency. Like, how are the reviews on Google, for instance, as you're searching for? Like, what are people actually saying about it? People aren't going to hold back in reviews. And I think it's important to understand what they're going to be saying in that to get a real picture of what it's like to work for them. And then also find case studies and look at the case studies, because agencies are going to make themselves look good in case studies, and really look at the case study, find out exactly what it is that they're trying to say they did. Maybe they say they increased ROI 5,000% in 2 years. Well, what exactly was that? Like, what exactly was the goal? How much did it increase? Did you go from like 100 to 500? Or is the sample size very small? So understanding, not just looking at the case study at face level value, but actually understanding, asking the questions when you go into that meeting if it's somebody that you're looking at. And then the last thing, which I think is most important, is don't expect an agency to run your business. Like that's not the way of thinking about it. A lot of agencies will try and do that, and maybe they are skilled in it, but you need to be a partner in it. You, in my opinion, should go through and put in the time to try and understand your audience, try and understand what content plan or sort of content experience they need. And maybe an agency can help you with that. But before you start just launching campaigns that are siloed and disconnected, think about what success looks like for your business in 3 to 5 years. You have to design that. If you're not doing that, you're selling yourself short, you're selling your customers short. And it doesn't mean you won't be successful, but you're not going to be as accelerated as you could be if you put in that time and effort to understand what success looks like. And if you build a long-term plan, it'll make much more sense of the things you could do in the short term. Because you mentioned it earlier, Todd, like content marketing and creating content is a long-term game. It's not something you might find value in the near term, but if you do it correctly and you find a way of adding to the library over time versus trying to just write a new book or write something and not think about all the content that's coming out, your investment in content in 3 to 5 years, if you build out that plan, you're going to get a lot of return 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road, especially from an SEO perspective. So I think that's why it's so important to be invested in understanding the long-term goal and not trying to do quick fixes all the time, which is a lot of what people are looking at when they're looking at agencies.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've found that oftentimes the best outcome down for a long-term plan is to have an agency come in and help you get started, build some processes, like you said, understand how the structure, get an initial strategy in place and get started. But then as you grow and see ROI, you can add your own internal resources and almost move to more of like a coaching and consulting model where you have somebody that's kind of working with your team to get the results. In our experience, that's been the most successful partnerships where there's still a lot of internal ownership of the content, and there's a lot of the respect for the fact that this is part of what you need to do as a company to create value. Is you need to tell your story, right? You can't outsource telling your story. You've got to tell your story, and you're the ones in the trenches solving the problems. You're the subject matter experts. There's never going to be an agency that's better at your job than you are. Though there are some agencies that I love what you said about they have a niche, right? They focus on a vertical. They can bring some unique experience to you because they have multiple clients in that vertical, and they can see the trends. They can see the trends. They can see multiple cases. They can see different perspectives, and they can see where what works and what doesn't within that vertical. So I know I've done that with manufacturing and industrial companies. We've stayed kind of in that lane for the most part on our any kind of our services when we've actually done content or done inbound marketing with them. And it's been generally relatively easy to see where the opportunities lie. That's why like e-commerce is not something I spend a lot of time with, because I'm not an expert at it. I haven't done a lot of it. So anyway, I think that's good advice, right? Find an agency that's got good case studies, good history, but also has some specific experience in your vertical. I think that's smart.
One other thing on that too, I just want to add is some agencies, like we were talking about, especially if they're more specialized, have, like you said, they might have a portfolio of other companies that could be the collaborators for you. And that's generally the hardest thing that I see for most businesses, is that they might be experts, but they don't have connections at other places. And it's hard to develop collaborations where if you go into a company, not only are you maybe helping, they're going to help you from a strategy side, but they might even be able to help connect you with collaborators. Before HubSpot, the PR firm I worked at, I was working on several VF Corp brands, it's a Fortune 500 company, or it might even be Fortune 100. But that Wrangler jeans was like the primary client I had. So when Wrangler jeans is doing some sort of project, we might be able to pull in Justin boots, or maybe we're able to pull in this other Western brand, and all the brands got value out of it. And that's another thing that an agency can provide, is not only the strategy help, but connections to other other companies, which is why I wore my Pearl Snap shirt.
There you go. Yeah. Nice. I like that product placement. You're just, there you go. Smart. So another thing that marketers have been hearing more about lately is AI, right? In terms of content. And I use a tool called Lately, which takes my content that is we post on our blog, even videos, and it actually chops it up for us and creates social media posts. And our friend David Meerman Scott turned me onto this tool, and this tool it simplifies the process. It's not actually writing content for you, but it's taking your content and breaking it down into kind of social media chunks. There are actually tools that actually are writing content, right? I know a lot of kind of statistical content these days is generated by AI. What do you think the role is of AI? Should we be worried about this? Should we be thinking about it? Should we be looking for tools? Talk to us from your perspective about AI generated content.
Yeah, I actually just met with Lately yesterday. I met with the CEO, Karen. She was fabulous. She was very she knows the AI space really well, and I was very impressed with the tool. I haven't used it myself, but they gave me a demo of it yesterday. Mm-hmm. And like you just said, you could put in a blog post and they'll be able to snippet. They'll be able to provide a bunch of different pieces of content you can use for social media. So it saves a lot of time. I think tools like that are helpful. And the way that I always approach anything is with a little bit of I like to keep things under the microscope until I can 100% trust it and understand I don't like to trust everything as a solution out the gate without, having certain processes in place. Just as a backup doesn't mean it's not going to work as much as I just want to make sure I understand what are the capabilities of the tool and what do I need to do as a human to make sure that I'm actually able to communicate what it is that I'm looking to do here. So with AI, I think AI is very helpful. I think it is something that is getting more sophisticated over the years. I think my suggestion would be don't just lean into it and have it be something that you don't have a process to even review or edit still. I would think of it as like, as you're about to, for instance, if you're using the Lately tool, which I was very impressed with, I would still myself want to go through and look at the post of what is the content actually saying, what I want to change the image. So I think of AI as maybe it's getting you a helpful head start. And until I can understand its intricacies, with any platform, you want to make sure you understand the limitations of the platform. You want to understand the pros of it so that you're getting the most out of it and you are able to have processes that also work with it. So, I mean, as AI gets stronger, like maybe we won't have to do some of that in the future. Maybe you can just lean into a tool to do something. But I think because from being a content marketer, I want to make sure that there is still a human looking at that, and are they reviewing it and making sure that it's being understood and the point is getting across in a certain way, because it's much different. It's hard to replicate. AI is it's still not a human in my mind. So I want to make sure that I'm as human as possible with the content. It doesn't mean AI is not going to work in that regard, but I just like to always have a human also reviewing something.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the human aspect for most content is not there yet from AI, but I do think this definitely bears watching as we move forward. All right, well, we're just getting about out of our time here. Justin, is there anything you'd like to tell us about what you're doing that you'd like to promote or like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think I am. First of all, I'm very genuine with the content that I'm creating. It's like I've doubled down in certain areas. I created the content marketing course, then I wrote inbound content. I created Inbound Strategy Camp, which was essentially the follow-up to inbound content. And you don't claim to be the best at everything. Like, it's very hard to be a generalist. Like, whoever's watching this, find the things that are going to work for you and double down on those areas. SEO and content creation and even video now are the things that I most focus on. So find the things that work for you. The thing I'm most excited about working on now is I'm working with the University of New Hampshire with creating, they have this business and practice program, and I take what inbound content is in an accelerated 7-week course that people, by the end of it, they actually pitch a marketing campaign to a client. Really fulfilling to work with students. I know when I graduated from college, I didn't take it seriously, thinking I was going to have a degree and get a job. I was a server. I was working in a jewelry store. I was trying to sell websites. I just needed to build a portfolio. So I think nowadays my goal is to help people not only have a credential, but have a portfolio of work so that they can walk the walk. So that's exciting. I'm excited to see where that endeavor goes, and more to come on that.
Excellent. Well, I think we dropped the links in the Facebook comments, so feel free to reach out to Justin. I think we have a link to his LinkedIn page as well. So Justin, great talking to you as always. Love the insights into content, and I appreciate all of your time today and your thoughts. Dan, anything in closing?
No, I'm good. Like a wealth of knowledge. You guys are two content kings, right? Check out that strategy camp. Super exciting and interesting. Check out Inbound Organizations. Check out Inbound Content. And we look forward to seeing you in our December update. But we should do Justin again. Can we do Justin again? Right? Or maybe we should do a retrospective. I mean, we got David Meerman Scott, we got Ethan, we got Justin, we got all of these famous
Get a
folks.
panel. Get a panel like we talked about.
Get a panel of our fan. Oh, interesting.
All right, I'm gonna we'll huddle on that. But thank you so much, Justin. You're a monster in regard to helping companies, right, prepare and really execute in like one of the most important motions for startups all the way to Fortune 500 companies, right, in the world. So we appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, Todd. Looking like Ernest Hemingway as usual, right? And listeners, we'll see you next month.
Awesome.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Dan.
Bye.
Yep. Bye, everyone.